everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I've got an interesting one for you because Wizards might be breaking one of their own unofficial policies, I would say, with one of the brand new precons. Let's jump into it. So, in taking a look at the 5 brackets, again, the Commander Brackets Beta, the matchmaking system, the giant amazing bracket system that solved all of Magic's issues. Not really, but I mean, it did a decent job of organizing things in some ways. We have, of course, the brackets 1 through 5. These are your brackets that you are building your decks, and you say, okay, yeah, mine's a 1, mine's a 2. Instead of like the 7 scale, now it's like everything's a 3, right? But basically, Exhibition's a 1. Your ultra casual commander deck. 2 is core, the average current pre-constructed deck. Keep that in mind. 3 is upgraded beyond the strength of an average pre-con deck. 4, optimize high power commander. It's time to go wild. And 5 is CEDH. The only 2 of these that have no restrictions are 4 and 5, and you can argue as to why they have 5 is a separate thing than 4, and why 4 isn't just CDH itself. But anyways, regardless, when it comes to this, 1 through 3 have a couple of things in, well, the same, essentially, right? Actually, well, one thing that really is the same, I guess 2 things that are exactly the same. Extra turns, and no mass land denial. I guess 3, you can have like no chaining extra turns, so there's a difference, but no mass land denial. So if you are playing mass land denial, you are automatically in tier 4, which again is high power commander. It's time to go wild. When it comes to Wizards and them building the precons, they almost always shoot for a 2. They do not try to push it past 2. The average current pre-constructed deck, they try to keep it right there. So that's a bit interesting as to what decisions they're making with the pre-con decks and what we might see in the future as well as a potential quote-unquote solve to one of Commander's faux pas, one of Commander's quote-unquote issues because, well, they put mass land denial in a precon. They literally did that. I mean, they actually, like, when it comes to, like, them not wanting to, break out of 2, they, like, made it so that Soul Ring, which, again, is in every single precon, just doesn't exist on the Game Changers list, basically, right? And doesn't, therefore, like, break this list and then go automatically to a 3 for any precon, or a 4, basically. And all of a sudden, essentially, again, with mass land destruction, last land denial, I should say, they just did that with one of the precons, and so now it is officially, in my mind, it might not be officially by them, they'll probably, like, skirt the rules and be like, well, technically it doesn't do that. Technically it doesn't. So, yeah, we'll see. But, yeah, in my mind, the World Shaper Precon is now, because of this, tier 4 in the bracket system. And this is kind of crazy because the World Shaper Precon has a lot of insane, absurd, powerful things. I mean, like, Korvold is in there, right? Like, they've got a lot of insane things. But Planetary Annihilation is probably the most insane thing I have ever seen them just throw into a precon. And they're like, yep, this is there. A sorcery for 5 mana in red, just 5 mana. Each player chooses 6 lands they control, then sacrifices the rest. Planetary Annihilation deals 6 damage to each creature. Now, this is where Wizards and you, if you are one of those players who might be a bit of a rules lawyers out there, might be skirting the rule, quote-unquote, of mass land destruction. Mass land denial, I should say. Because you could argue that, well, 6 is a reasonable amount of lands to have. That is a reasonable amount. Most spells cost 6. I should be able to destroy all lands but 6 for everyone, and that's fine. Again, yeah, kind of picking and choosing exactly what you want to call mass land denial, in my opinion. But, yeah, when the possibility of destroying an absurd amount of lands occurs, which this definitely does, and I believe the way that Wizards phrases it is essentially like, I think it's like anything that affects 4 or more lands, essentially, per each player, whether it's actually getting rid of, bouncing, or, like, changing what they tap for, essentially. That's what they basically consider mass land denial, or like if they can't untap, that kind of stuff too. And this definitely does that. Yeah, again, you can say like, well, that would require everyone to be at 10 plus lands or whatever. Well, technically not. I mean, if you're averaging it out per player, right, and the one player has 15 lands, that's still quite a bit for them to lose. And obviously that's kind of what Wizards is trying to fight against at this point, right? There is this faux pas in Commander. There is this like, you can't do that thing in Commander where an unwritten rule is literally don't touch my lands. Like, you are not allowed to touch my lands. You can destroy mana rocks, You cannot touch lands. It is the sacred, mana source of Commander, and it cannot be destroyed because that is mean, quote unquote. And so because of that, because so many players are against that, myself included, comes to mass land destruction, it just makes the games a lot longer. It really does. That basically, that does allow certain types of decks out there, green as a color in general, to really explode and go crazy and kind of be unchecked. And so we'll see if Wizards starts to kind of change the way that they present mass land denial, because this card might be a signal that they are doing that. I mean, also it is like a board wipe too, right? 6 damage each creature, but still, like, the point that matters on this is, again, hey everyone, 6 lands, sacrifice the rest. Because, that is, in my mind, I mean, again, if this is sitting down at a casual Commander game, right, and you are not expecting any kind of mass land denial, all of a sudden, this is being brought to the table, and someone's like, well, it has to be okay to play, right? It's in a precon. Like you can't be mad at me for playing this. It's in a precon. So Wizards is kind of forcing the issue a little bit here, and it'll be interesting to see if they start doing this more and more and more in actual Commander cards going forward. Because, again, there is no real way to keep, green in check in a way. This is the way to do it, but again, you're kind of skirting your own Commander bracket system by doing that. When it comes to, like, historical cards that do make the, don't play in Commander at lower power level tables with players that don't want to play mass land denial, we do have a swath of examples of cards that are somewhat similar to this one. Not exactly the same, but somewhat similar. And those are no-nos, and this one is kind of a no-no. So again, it's going to be really weird when players actually pull up to a table with this precon, throw this down, and players are going to be like, you just destroyed so many lands. Yeah, but it's in a precon, it's fine. Because when it comes to some mass land destruction cards, I mean, Keldon Firebombers is probably the closest that we get to this brand new card, Planetary Annihilation. It's a 3/3 human soldier, I believe. It just says soldier, but I think it's a human soldier. I have no idea. For 5 mana and red. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices all lands they control except for 3. Now, this is where Wizards might be like, hey, okay, like, this obviously is mass land destruction because it's going down to 3 instead of 6. Obviously, it's contextual as to what time of the game it is. There is a time where this could destroy less lands than Planetary Annihilation, of course, right? If this is played on, say, turn 5, everyone goes from 5 lands down to 3. Everyone just lost 2 lands. Sure. Again, you could say, like, oh, that's underneath the mass land destruction, threshold. But obviously, the longer the game goes, the more of an impact this makes, and the fact that it's on an ETB is pretty crazy, too. So this one, be hard to argue against that is mass land destruction, because it definitely is mass land denial, I should say, is the way that they phrase it, basically. But again, Planetary Annihilation very much could be a card that does end up destroying more than this if it comes down later in the game. So again, it's contextual based on time, which again makes this a bit fuzzy and a bit hard when it comes to making those distinctions between, okay, what's okay and what's not. And I'm not saying that it's easy to do. I am saying that they kind of need to do it, and throwing it into precon is a bit aggressive. I mean, like Wildfire, okay? This one is just straight up, all right? It breaks their whole, okay, it destroys 4 more lands per person, right? It sorts for 6 mana. Each player sacrifices 4 lands, 4 damage each creature. I bet that this was actually a card that was very much an inspiration for this brand new card. Again, getting rid of 4 lands is aggressive. Again, that is a card that is mass land destruction. It also deals less damage, though, in general, too, which is kind of crazy. It depends on Planetary Annihilation, shows how far we've come, obviously, and it costs less mana to cast. That being said, this one is a guarantee for each time. The others are not. This is not conditional. The other one is. The other one is dependent upon how many lands players have, and it does punish players who overextend on lands, which, again, has been protected up until potentially now. That might be changing. Thoughts of Ruin. Each player sacrifices a land for each card in your hand. Again, this is most definitely, in my opinion, mass land destruction. Typically, the typical hand, again, will probably have, 3 to 4 cards in hand in general. I guess if you're casting this, technically it's not a card in your hand anymore. But you could have up to 7, maybe even more than that. And obviously, that would be mass land denial. If you're just casting this and you've got 2 cards in your hand, cool, that's not mass land denial, I guess. But again, because it can be, it is. And that's, again, where Planetary Annihilation is a bit of a weird one where, it kind of is just that. But again, Wizards is kind of going to be skirting the rules potentially by saying, no, it's not. And yeah, I bet there's going to be more of these types of cards that are, again, more restrictive at, again, the higher end of lands, essentially, restricting the amount of lands that you can have in play over a certain amount, essentially, or punishing players who get to that amount. That is going to be something that they might start doing more and more in the future. Maybe this is a signal that they're going to be doing it. Obviously, some other ones, that actually restrict lands in different ways are banned. Yeah. Like balance. Each player chooses a number of lands they control equal to the number of lands controlled by the player is the fewest, then sacrifice the rest. Players discard cards and sacrifice creatures the same way. This card is banned for a reason. It's only 2 mana, which is insane. But yeah, this one, again, obviously messes with hands, messes with creatures, but the most important part of this one and why it's banned, it messes with lands. And this one being, again, conditional based on the player that has the least, kind of does the same thing in a way of Planetary Annihilation where it sets everyone at the exact same amount. That being said, Planetary Annihilation, again, sets that threshold higher. The threshold is 6. Rarely is balance going to be cast. It's like, okay, everyone, sacrifice down to 8 lands. Okay, cool, yay. No, it's going to be like, sacrifice down to nothing. Okay, cool. That's why it is banned, because it is an absolutely absurd card. I mean, obviously, another card that's somewhat, reminiscent is, but not, and definitely should always stay banned. Limited resources. Enchant for a single white mana. Comes into play, each player chooses 5 lands they control and sacrifices the rest. As long as there are 10 or more lands in play, players cannot play lands. It's just kind of ridiculous in Commander in general as it is, and it's one that says, hey, okay, everyone, yeah, we're just not playing at all. Yeah, again, yeah, we're not playing at all. I mean, okay, here's the ETB thing, right? The ETB isn't the issue. I mean, it is the issue, right? I mean, it already kind of would be mass land destruction because of that, like Planetary Annihilation is too. But it is that saying that, hey, 10 or more lands in play, you can't play lands, therefore we can't progress any further than this. So again, it does kind of even the playing field in a way, but it also makes it so that you can't progress at all, which is kind of crazy. So I don't expect to see cards like this in the future. That being said, Planetary Annihilation, definitely. The exact quote from that bracket article, I believe, is, basically any cards and common game plans that mess with several of people's lands or the mana they produce should not be in your deck if you're seeking to play brackets 1 through 3. Which, again, is just ironic that they threw this in a deck. So, again, it seems like, again, obviously the brackets kind of system is still in flux a little bit. It definitely is. It's not finalized, in my opinion. It's probably going to be changed a little bit, at least, in the future. But it is one where, yeah, it kind of shows that not only is it flexible, but Wizards' approach to making cards and putting them into Commander and making adjustments is as well. Obviously, Commander is a weird format compared to other ones because you do have to balance for experience in a way that you don't because there are certain, again, unwritten rules, quote-unquote, that you are not supposed to break, basically, in Commander. And it's interesting that Wizards is kind of making a stand with this one and throwing a, again, arguably, people could argue on either side, but in my opinion, mass land destruction card into a precon. Again, this one definitely can and will destroy plenty of lands. Again, 4 or more per person. Yeah, check. That's going to happen with this kind of a card plenty of times. Again, can it destroy less? Yes. But obviously there are other cards that do a similar thing where they have a threshold of lands that they can destroy, which can be over 4 or less than 4, and those are considered mass land destruction. We'll see, again, where they land on this one, where it's like maybe they'll adjust the rule to be like, but if it leaves every player with at least 6 lands, then it's fine, because 6 is a good number to play with, and that's too much mana if you've got more than 6. So we'll see where Wizards ends up. But yeah, until then, Planetary Annihilation, a crazy card put in a precon, and again, technically a card that I would say does put the precon into bracket 4. So if you show up at the table with a World Shaper precon and you get targeted because someone's like, well, you've got a mass land destruction card in that deck and I don't want you to play it because I've got 12 lands and I'm in green, yeah, don't be surprised, because technically that is mass land destruction. The casual Commander player typically does not like to play against that. Again, Wizards, an interesting decision. We'll see what happens in the future. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. Comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.